Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. So today we're going to be once again talking about the PlayStation VR 2. Now I know I said I'm not going to be discussing it anymore until something else happens. But guess what? Something did happen. We had the 1-year anniversary of its release and also Sony gave us some announcements. So not only will I tell you those announcements, how I feel about them, what they mean for the future, but also we're going to recap my 1 year with the PlayStation VR 2. And finally, I think I understand the disconnect between me and the PlayStation VR community. I know a lot of people in the PlayStation VR 2 community are kind of annoyed at me. I've been, picking on the PlayStation VR or kind of putting it down. So I think I understand the disconnect now. So we'll get to all of that and much more. There are, of course, links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead to any point in this video. But before we jump in, this video is brought to you by VR Rock. VR Rock makes prescription lens inserts for all of your favorite VR headsets. So if you wear glasses and just can't fit your frames inside of the headset, or you're afraid you'll scratch your lenses, go check out what VR Rock has to offer. They magnetically connect for easy insert and removal, and the company's recently lowered their prices. There's a link to VR Rock down in the description, and don't forget to use discount code Mateo311 for 10% off and to help support my channel. Okay, so before I recap my 1 year with the PlayStation VR 2, let's just get into those announcements. Now, the biggest thing was definitely the fact that they said they're working on PCVR support for the PlayStation VR 2. Definitely a huge announcement. I know a lot of people wanted this. However, they weren't very specific on their wording. And myself and many others are inclined to believe this means there will be a streaming solution, not native support. You won't be able to take your PlayStation VR 2 and plug it right into a PC and game. It looks like we're going to get something like Steam Link or Virtual Desktop for the PlayStation 5. So you're still going to need a PSVR 2, a PlayStation 5, and a PC to get access to, some of those PCVR games that you just can't play right now. Now, if that's the case, it's not as big a deal, but it's still cool. Let's not put this down. Having more options is always awesome. I just don't, no one's going to go out and buy a PlayStation 5, a PlayStation VR 2, just to stream games, to get a lower quality version of the games. It doesn't make sense. So again, it's not a reason to go run out and buy a PlayStation VR 2 or a PlayStation 5. However, having more options is always good. I just think this is going to be a niche group of people who already have PlayStation VR 2 and a PC. And they just don't want to buy a PC headset. Regardless, I don't want to try and downplay it. It's a pretty cool announcement, and we'll just see what happens with this. I would love native support, but I'm hearing that's not really possible unless there's some adapter they'd have to sell. We'll just wait. We'll see what happens. Now, we did get a few other updates, like the Wizard Dark Times Brotherhood is out now. Arizona Sunshine 2 also has some free new DLC. Wanderer Fragments of Fate is coming out next week. Little Cities VR has an update on the way. And easily the coolest game reveal was Zombie Army VR, which will be out sometime this year. Now, this is once again a cross-platform title, also coming to Steam and the Quest, but I will circle back to that topic later in this video. Now, besides that PCVR compatibility announcement, there really wasn't much here. I'm glad they did something. I'm happy they remembered the PlayStation VR 2 on its birthday, but come on, let's really celebrate the birthday. So, it's good we got something, but again, I'm still expecting more, which will be a recurring theme in this video. But let's just go back in time. Let's look at my PlayStation VR 2 journey. Let's go back a little bit more than 12 months. Let's go back about 14 months as the hype for the release of the PlayStation VR 2 was building. I was super, super optimistic. Now, I was convincing myself this would be a huge impact to the overall industry. Big AAA titles were coming. The era of high quality, high graphical fidelity VR would be back, because a lot of us miss what VR was in like 2019. The Half-Life Alyx stage, the Lone Echo, the games like that were just, so crisp and beautiful and so highly immersive until we got downgraded into the world of Quest. Now, going into that whole topic is another video I've covered many times before. It's a necessary evil. We needed to make the technology more available, not spending time there. But I was like, wow, we're finally going to have a little bit of a split here. VR is going to go into, okay, the mobile version is like Switch, Nintendo Switch. And then we're going to have PlayStation, where we're going to get the games I love, like the God of War, the Resident Evil, the dark, gritty, deep stuff. And it looked pretty good at first. We get to the launch and I am super optimistic. There are people already bashing it. There's people, trying to just say it's not worth it. 2023, we shouldn't have a tether anymore. And I always said repeatedly, listen, I'm fine with the tether. I will take the tether for better games. The tether is not a big issue to me. More and more, I'm getting, annoyed at the tether because I use my Quest more often and I even use it for PCVR. So that freedom is nice, but I'm willing to trade it for better games, hands down. Now, there was also a bunch of, let's say, hardware issues or just dislikes. And I noticed them too, but I was really ready to push them aside too. Like the screen does have a weird grittiness to it. The OLED panel does have high persistence. So when you turn your head, you see a blurring and it makes certain people, even motion sick, like more than VR. Just turning your head, makes certain people motion sick. And sadly, it's Bradley tends to be one of those people. He has a high susceptibility to that type of motion blur. For me, it was acceptable. Like I thought the reprojection was horrible, but I was like, you know what? I could deal with this reprojection. I could deal with this little grittiness. I could even deal with the really small sweet spot of this headset, which is tough. The Fresnel lens just doesn't cut it anymore. There's too much glare, the small sweet spot. But again, I was ready to push all of that aside, and I was with all of my coverage. I was like, listen, people are wrong. The cable doesn't matter. Yeah, the sweet spot's small. You're going to have to adjust to it. There are some drawbacks, but look what you get. You're getting GT7, you're getting Resident Evil, you're getting Horizon, Call of the Mountain. So you're getting these bigger experiences. And I was willing to make that trade-off because VR is all about trade-offs. It's battery life, it's graphical fidelity, it's price. There's a million different trade-offs we're always doing. So I was willing to make that trade-off, and I was actually a huge supporter of the PlayStation VR2. And I actually paid for my PlayStation VR2, even though Sony offered me one for free. I wanted to be on good terms with them. I wanted to have a really nice working relationship because I was in it for the long haul. I wanted to be covering the best of the best games, and I am a huge PlayStation 5 fan. I love all of their first-party IPs. So I felt like it was going to be the same with the PlayStation VR2. Now, as time went on, I wouldn't say I was defending or supporting the PlayStation VR2 anymore. I was kind of just like bored with it. There was nothing I was really looking forward to. Resident Evil 4 Remake came out months before the PlayStation VR2 version, so I was kind of like not interested by the time it came to VR. And there's only been 2 games to date that I've completed on my PlayStation VR2, and that's Horizon, Call of the Mountain, and Synapse. And there's a pattern here. It's exclusives. And this is where I'm understanding my divide has come from the community. I'm in a position where the majority of the community isn't. I have every headset. I do this for a living. I'm a VR enthusiast. And that's what's setting me up for disappointment. Like my expectations for the PlayStation VR were huge. I thought it revitalized PCVR. I thought huge titles were coming. But then as I talk to more and more developers, I see some of the numbers. Honestly, we're probably at 1.3 million sales in 1 year. I'm going to put that number out there. It's honestly, if that number is not dead on, it's pretty close to the total sales, which is not great. I mean, some people will say 1.3 in a year. That's fantastic. Not for game sales. It's not enough player base. And when you look at like Resident Evil 4 Remake, only 1.4% of the players who own that game actually tried it in VR. So the money's not there to make these more robust games I want. And this is why I started getting pretty sad about the PlayStation VR. I know a lot of you guys see it as I want to crap on the PlayStation VR, or I'm a meta shill and I just, by making the PlayStation VR2 look bad, it makes meta look better, which is no, that's just dumb. I want VR to rise altogether with everyone. So my disappointment came, and my disappointment really stems from having access to all different, aspects of VR, and also my expectations. Like the only thing I wanted from PlayStation VR2 was a handful of exclusives I can't get anywhere else that are high quality. That's all I wanted. Like on PlayStation VR 1, I was a very, very long holdout on the original PlayStation VR. I was like, the hardware's crap. It can't compete with my PC. Why would I ever want it? But then Iron Man was coming out. I really wanted to play it. I got a PlayStation VR2 and I was like, you know what? Even with this, headset that's lower resolution compared to everything else, the PlayStation 4 is aged out. Even with that, they managed to make a great game. Same went for Astrobot and Farpoint, and I started finding all these great games on PlayStation. So I was super excited for the PlayStation VR2. I thought it was going to be, my place for exclusives. And except for the Resident Evils, which I'll be honest with you guys, I'm just burnt out on horror shooters. It's just not for me right now. Like, I really enjoyed them. Resident Evil 8 wasn't my favorite. Resident Evil 4 has been played to death, so it's getting a little rough there. Everything else feels like a horror shooter on the platform too. Like, we had the Dark Pictures, which was good. I enjoyed it, even while other people were crapping on it. I actually really enjoyed it. But it just feels like, that's all we're getting right now is horror shooters and things that are on other platforms. If I want the best graphics, I'm going to play on my PC. And I'm not going to have to deal with some of the same issues I get on my PlayStation VR2, like the cable, like the old lens, like the small sweet spot. So I have my graphical fidelity from PC, and there's tons of exclusives coming out on Quest. Say what you will about their quality. Some of them I'm loving, like Asgard's Wrath 2, and people aren't the biggest fans of Stranger Things, which dropped today, but I actually, really enjoyed that too. I thought it was a unique storytelling experience, and they utilized VR really well, and it tied into the show. But again, digressing. So what does all this rambling mean? It means I'm in a very different position than a lot of the community. They have most likely one VR headset, and that's why they're really happy with it. There's lots of games they've never experienced before because they're new to VR. So these multi-plat games are all new to them. And they don't know what else is out there. They don't know that there's better lenses. They don't know there's, better sweet spots or better microphones, headphones, whatever the case may be. They have theirs and they're happy with it. And like I always say, if you're happy with your hardware, it doesn't matter what me or anyone else on the internet says. Just keep being happy with it. The only reason why I put so much emphasis or why I kind of beat down the PlayStation VR2 is it's not moving in the industry. It's not growing. And I'm afraid it's, just going downhill. I'm afraid that the writing's on the wall and it's not going to last. And that's just not some random opinion I came up with. I've spoken to so many developers on this and just the outlook is terrible. Like, even relatively good selling games on the PlayStation VR, it's a tiny bit of money. No one could develop there exclusively. So if you're looking for bigger games from the PlayStation VR, they're going to have to be first party, sponsored games from Sony, which they're not going to do because they're not going to make money, and everyone's in the business of making money. So unless they decide, listen, we really want VR to explode and they throw a ton of money into it and give us a bunch of exclusives, it's not going to grow the way it needs to. And if they look back at history and say, look at things like Half-Life Alyx, they'd have to bang out like 3 or 4 Half-Life Alyxes every year for the next 3 years to really grow it to what it needs to be. And at that point, you're probably looking at newer hardware. So it's rough. It's really rough out there for VR. We've seen a couple studios go under lately, and I just don't want, the PlayStation hardware to be the next thing that goes under. It's kind of like, the ship sinking, and a lot of people just want to ignore it because they're still having fun on the ship. That's how I felt. And that's why, I kind of push harder, which probably isn't the right move. Pushing people who don't want to be pushed, it's not going to work. So that's my 1 year journey with the PlayStation VR2. Super hyped. Loved what they originally gave us. Was trying to be a huge spokesman for it because I thought it was going to deliver something else. I know people say, listen, they gave us like 5 AAA titles in the year, but I always disagree with this. We got some hybrid games that released later than their flat versions, which really didn't help sell the hardware. We got, lots of ports, stuff like that. Again, Synapse and Horizon Call of the Mountain are the only things I sat down and played through completely in VR. So for me, it's really, wasn't worth the money. But if I only had a PlayStation VR 2, I probably would have got a lot more life out of it. I probably would have. So that's where the disconnect with me and the community is. But I have to say, focusing on this community a little bit more here, you guys are tough. Like, I was going to say literally crapped, but I literally put my butt on a Quest 2 and talked down and made fun of it and really ripped into the Quest for months, if not a year, about how it ruined the quality of games. You know, it downgraded graphics so much. It set the industry back. You know, I went on and on about this for so long. And the Quest community was not as tough as I would say the PlayStation VR2 community is on me. But who cares? Now I'm trying to be a martyr. No, I mean, it's weird. Even when I like something, like I was actually a huge fan of Legendary Tales. And I compared it to my 100 hours of it in the PC version. And people even then gave me a hard time. Like, I was like, I don't get it. I'm saying the game is good. I played it. They're like, no, you played most of it on PC, so that doesn't count. And I'm like, but the game is basically the same. Like, honestly, and it's not an apples to apples comparison, because I can't say, well, here's the PC version, here's the PlayStation VR2 version, because there's no PC. Someone might come at it with super crappy hardware, and someone might come at it with an RTX 4090 and a big screen beyond. I don't know what every PC experience is going to be like, so I could tell you my experience. And basically, the games are extremely similar. The haptics didn't make a big difference for me. The controls were a little bit off on PlayStation, but they patched that. Overall, you know, it's very similar on both platforms for me, and I like it equally. But people, you know, just want to discredit my PCVR experience because, listen, no, if you're going to talk about PlayStation, only talk about PlayStation. No, I'm talking about the game. I'm talking about the game. Legendary Tales, loved it, solid game, and even liking something, the community gave me a hard time. So I don't know what to do anymore. I'm just going to continue to be open and honest with you guys. Tell you my true opinion. I know some people won't believe it. Some people will think I'm biased. I am biased for one thing, VR. I want VR to succeed. I don't care if it's Meta. I don't care if it's Apple. I don't care who it is. Sony, Valve, whoever is giving us the best and highest quality games and grows the industry, I got your back. And if you screw up, you do something stupid, your game is crappy, I'm going to call it out. End this story. That's just how I roll. Now, you won't always agree with my opinion. Sometimes things are subjective. Lots of things when it comes to gaming are subjective. Yeah, quality of visuals, quality of music. Regardless, you know, it's not just straight quality. It's what I like versus what you like. But then there's things that are objective. And that's like number of sales, you know, market impact, how much a company made, you know, selling their game. Did they make a profit? Those are very important factors. And that's what I would say the consumer side never sees. And that's the stuff I spend at least half of my time looking into, because there's no point in betting on a horse, even if it's the fastest horse. It's so much faster than everyone else, but you know it's going to have a heart attack in like 6 months. There's no point in betting on that horse for the long term. You know, get your fun out of it or your enjoyment while it lasts. But then, now, again, this sounds like I'm going pessimistic on the PlayStation VR2, and that's not the case, guys. I'm just a little burnt. I expected more, but again, my expectations partially come from having access to just too much VR. Look, I got a Quest Pro there, PlayStation VR2 over there, a Rift over there. I have the big screen beyond. I have the Index with the wireless adapter. So yeah, it's definitely, my comparison is not going to be the same as a general user experience. All I could do is share my knowledge with you and tell you why I feel these ways. And you may agree, you may not. That's it, guys. That was my 1 year recap of my journey with the PlayStation VR2. I know it was very rambly. I wish this system the best. I really, really do. I want to see Sony back it up and throw some money into it. You know, just anything. Or again, work with Valve, team up, you know, release some PlayStation VR, PCVR exclusives, and then years later port them to Quest like we used to do back in the day. Like when the Quest 4 can then support the games, port them then. I don't know. Whatever it takes, just get me my better games. Okay, guys, happy 1 year anniversary to PlayStation VR 2. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Any of your comments, questions, feedback, drop them. I'll do my best to answer, guys. I'll do my best. I like having an open discussion. I know sometimes I come at things so one-sided, but that's because I've just basically put all the information together, and this is, you know, my conclusion. I'm not just throwing random stuff out there for clicks or to aggravate people. This is just my informed decisions, but the conversation is always open. So drop your comments. Let me know how you feel. If you're enjoying your PlayStation VR 2, I want to hear that. If it's kind of run its course for you, I want to hear that too. And like I said, you enjoy this, thumbs up. New here, consider subscribing. As always, I'll see you guys on next time.